Hey there, Melinda Baxter of Pathways to Health, your gut and mind health maven. And I wanted to pop on here this morning and first of all just say hello and welcome to this group. I am so excited you're here and glad that you have found me. And I look forward to serving you in the coming days and weeks and months. So the best way I can help serve you is for you to share why you are in this group and what you're hoping to get out of it, what your struggle is, and to be engaged with each other. You know, that's my hope. Community is a central piece to who I am, whether it be, with my family or close friends or any of the groups that I lead. I love community. And I love the bonds that can come out of true and genuine, authentic community. I'm sorry, I have something, eyelash or something right in my eye. So let me just try and get that out of there. So I wanted to share a piece of my journey, and I will be doing that here and there, just teaching from my own journey, which is where I am. Hey, Valerie, welcome. Which is where I coach and teach from predominantly. It's why I do the work that I do, is because I had my own real crisis with my health and in particular with my gut health, but also with my mind health. After my daughter was born, I went through a real crisis around stress. And it wasn't just because she was a newborn with colic. There were a lot of other issues that were there that helped to create the situation that caused a ton of stress for me. That had nothing to do with being a new mom. Being a new mom and going through a home birth labor that was pretty challenging were reasons enough for me to be pretty stressed out, and my body was wasted. And then a lot of other things happened. And so through that first year of her life, I was really struggling, and by the time I was at the end of the first year, I was having a lot of gut symptoms. And just for some context, she's 13 now, will be 14 in August. In my life, I had some issues with my gut. If I was stressed out, I would have sometimes some cramping or, some symptoms, but it was nothing that really ever stuck out or I spent a lot of time focusing on or went to doctors about. But after this happened with my daughter, I was doing all natural and alternative approaches for that first year because that's something that I believe strongly in and I still do. But I wasn't getting better, and I was actually getting worse, and I wasn't sleeping very well at all. And so I was incredibly strung out. So I started down the path, which maybe some of you can relate to, and I would love to hear about that, of seeing practitioner after practitioner, getting prescribed medications, most of which were not really appropriate, not getting the supervision and guidance that I really needed, and just sort of starting on this long journey of trying to figure out what was going on with me and what I needed to do about it to begin to heal. And which ultimately, when my daughter was 2.5, I didn't go back to the job I was planning on going back to as a teacher at a boarding school here in Maine when she was 1 because I didn't feel like I could cope with the stress. So my journey took a whole different path, which is, what's gotten me here in front of you today, because I needed to figure out what I was going to do instead of that other job. And I was really very much engaged with this process of trying to uncover my own underlying causes and root causes for my own health issues. So yoga teacher was the first thing, then a holistic health coach, then a functional nutrition practitioner, then a master life coach, and so on and so forth. So one of the biggest things and what I wanted to talk to you about today, it's not about the medical piece today, because I don't really feel like the medical piece is the most important piece of this healing journey. In my experience and as I have witnessed my clients' experiences. My gut health issues and my health issues really pointed me towards the emotional and mental health challenges that I had. And I don't mean like in a diagnostic sense, though that may pertain for sure, but more in the sense of what was my relationship to myself like? How did I really feel about myself? What were the kind of thoughts that I was thinking most of the time, every day? And it's really only in the last few years that I've gotten a handle on this and really done some profound work. And I will say to you too that I have been doing personal work for a long time. The school that I went to, that I was working at, that I mentioned, is a character education school, and I came to that school in 1985 as an incredibly off-track, dysfunctional, insecure teenager. I was 14, and I was there for 4 years, and I made a lot of changes in my life at that point, and I gained a lot of self-confidence, and I was a wholly different person when I graduated at 18, and that definitely shifted my future and what I was able to do in college and thereafter in a lot of ways that were incredibly positive. But there was some really profound fundamental beliefs that I was still carrying around that were not good, and they were causing me a lot of stress. And as I look at the causes for why I got sick and went on that journey, the biggest cause was stress. And so stress is something that's going to be a part of our lives. We can't get rid of stress. You've probably tried, and we're not really meant to get rid of stress. Stress has its purpose. But how we think about stress and how we relate to stress has everything to do with how stress is ultimately going to affect us adversely or positively. And so that was what ultimately started to become really clear to me. And I recognized that pretty only a few years after I was on this path. I became very clear that I needed to work on my relationship to stress. And how do we work on our relationship to stress? We have to work on our relationship to ourselves. So what is it within you that is the place that you're so scared to go, but you really need to go on your journey, on your healing journey? And that's where it's at. That's where you're going to get the most growth and the most healing work. And I'm not saying that the medical piece isn't important. I have used the medical piece effectively in my own journey. But without the other piece, without looking at your thoughts and looking at how you really feel about yourself and what are your limiting beliefs about yourself, we all develop our beliefs when we're little, when we're young, when our subconscious mind is already there available to us as soon as we're born. And so the things that people say to us, even if they just say it once, we're so impressionable and we can believe them as doctrine, as dogma. I remember one thing my dad said to me when I was growing up was like, you better marry a sugar daddy, because I had expensive tastes. And that belief affected me in thinking, I guess I better marry somebody who's got a lot of money so I can have the life that I want. Well, I didn't do that. I married a teacher. But it created a belief in me that I needed somebody to take care of me, that I have been unpacking especially through the years of my being a solopreneur. I've really had to unpack that. And we all have those types of beliefs that were kind of implanted in us when we were young. And then when our conscious mind begins to form and when we're going through puberty, our frontal lobe, then we start to, think thoughts consciously, and those thoughts try and override our subconscious beliefs, but it can't. They can't. We have to actually go in and dissect those beliefs and reframe them and turn them around so they work for us and create new beliefs. Right? Until we do that work, which is, I've actually had a coach of my own for the last few years that's really been pivotal for me to do this work, even though I'm a coach. Because whatever your job description is, we are all biased in our own stories, and we have a hard time getting out of our own way. And so getting support and help on this journey is essential because we make excuses for ourselves. Doesn't matter, whether you're a coach or a nurse or a doctor or lawyer, whatever it is, we make excuses for ourselves. When push comes to shove, to dig in and do the hard work because it feels really scary. And we have to get vulnerable to do it. And we have to be willing to get out of our comfort zone, to confront fear. Fear is also an essential part of life. It's going to be there. The problem is we let fear get behind the wheel. If we use driving a car as an analogy, fear can be in the back seat, quiet, there. It's along for the ride. But too often we let it get into the front seat. We let it start messing with the radio stations, changing the temperature, and eventually steering the wheel. And once fear starts steering the wheel, then we really hunker down, right? We have a primal instinct to stay safe. It was the thing that kept us alive way back when we were carrying around clubs and dressed in animal skins, right? But we don't have those same kind of threats in our lives anymore, yet our fear response is kind of equivalent as if we did have those kind of threats in our lives. And so we need to get really, really super conscious and awake to the ways that we sabotage ourselves and to get very honest with ourselves about where healing work needs to be done and get the support we need to do that work. Because if you do that work in tandem with the medical piece of your healing, that's when your life opens up and the healing that you do is far deeper than just a physical healing. It gets into all the bodies, the mental, emotional, and the spiritual bodies. Because I truly believe, and this is why I do the work that I do. I've done it in various forms besides this. I've been a character education teacher. I've been an Outward Bound instructor, yoga teacher, massage therapist, that we are all gifted with unique things to bring to the world. It doesn't matter if somebody looks like they're almost identical to you on paper. You're still unique. The way you bring that to the world is still unique. And the world needs your light. The world needs my light. I need to show up as truthfully and as authentically as possible in my life if I'm going to leave the mark that I'm meant to leave in the world and on those whom I interact with and coach or teach or just meet on the street. Right? And if you're not feeling well, if you're feeling insecure, if you're doubting yourself, if you're hunkered down in fear, you can't do that. You can't leave your mark on the world in the way that you're meant to. And as much as ever right now, the world needs each and every one of our lights, our unique gifts. And so that's what I'm about. That's what I'm here to do in my life. And that's, the overarching theme of anything that I do in this group or in my work is about that. And so my journey instructs the way I do the work now, but the most important facet of what I do now is this work, this healing work, this mind management work. So I know Cynthia and Valerie, you're on here live, and thanks for showing up. And welcome to the group, both of you. And I look forward to getting to know you both. And please, if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And if you want some more support about that, I'm always open and available to get on a one-on-one call and talk about this more and serve you in a more personal way if that's of interest to you. So just let me know. You can always private message me or just comment on this thread. So I hope you have an awesome Wednesday, Valentine's Day. Share your love with those you care about today. And I hope you get lots of love back. So namaste.